I have been really looking forward to this conversation today, where I'm talking to three very successful real estate agents and team owners and a brokerage owner who have dialed in and are continuing to dial in their tech stack, and thought that you might all find it helpful to hear their perspective on their past experiences with tech tools and what they're currently using and why they chose to use these tools. So thank you all for taking time to chat today.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, before we dive in, I'd just like to introduce you all in case no one know some people don't know who you are. So we'll start with Chase, if you don't mind introducing yourself and who you are, where you're located, how long you've been in the business, that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, Chase Whitney, small family team here in Orange County, California. We're with First Team Real Estate, pretty big independent out here. I've been licensed since 2012. My folks started in 96, and so I joined on with that 16, 17 years later. And, my tech journey has been a fun one, but not without plenty of headaches along the way. So yeah, happy to dive in and chat.
Awesome. Paul, you mind introducing yourself?
Sure, I'm Paul Blair, real estate broker, owner of a company, Gray Square. We're here in Dallas. We also are in Houston and Los Angeles a little bit. I actually relocated from LA to Dallas 6 years ago. And so I've been an agent for about 20 years.
Awesome. And Dillar, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Dillar, and I am in Austin and cover most of Central Texas. I've normally been in the backside in operations for about 10 years, and then in late 2020 decided to start my own team. And so in 2021 is really when I took a dive into actually building the tech stack for my own team. And here we are. So it's been a long journey, although I also feel like it's been somewhat short.
Right. Time flies, but the days are long. That's how I say it.
Yes.
So some ground rules before we start. I think I already kind of gave you an idea, but we want to play nice. We don't want to like say this tool is crap. Yeah, I hated it. And we want to be nice, but obviously be honest. If you talk about tools that didn't work for you, you can say this particular tool didn't work for me because this, but that doesn't mean it may not work for everyone else. And that's the reason why I brought you all three here together, because you all three mix and match. There's some overlap with some of y'all of what tools you use, but there's, as you can see, there's not all three of us use the exact same thing. So that's why I wanted to have that conversation. But I'd first love to know what each of y'all currently use for your tech stack. So we'll go in the same order and start the conversation. So Chase, what tech stack do you currently use?
It's no secret. But I mean, well, first of all, I think all of us are using Follow Boss. I don't think
Yes.
we're all on the same page there. So, I mean, that's the central hub. And I've said before many times that if a piece of technology doesn't integrate with Follow Boss, I'm pretty much out from the beginning. So everything has to have a pretty deep integration. But the core of it, aside from Follow Boss, would be a mixture of Real Scout for our IDX, quote unquote. It's technically not, it's a little better than that, but ongoing nurture, property alerts, home value alerts, and kind of our ongoing back-end MLS replacement, if you will. We use Agent Fire for our website and a lot of the tools therein. And then we do I would say 95% of our online paid marketing is done through StreetText, which is a Facebook, a Meta partner. So all of our lead generation, listing ads, remarketing, and that sort of thing is all done through StreetText.
Cool.
That's
And
the core,
Paul,
at least. There's more.
oh yeah,
That's the
core
yeah.
main ones. Lots of other little tools out there too. Yeah. Paul, what about you? What do you use?
Yeah, same as Chase and everyone here. Obviously, Follow Boss is the hub, the main supporter of probably everything we do with the stack. So same thing. If I'm looking at something, if it doesn't integrate in there, do I need it? Because I use everything kind of jumps from there. So that's the main goal. Just like Chase, I use Real Scout. Same like he says, it's kind of like that MLS replacement. It's a really powerful tool. It's not really the IDX that you think of. It's super powerful. The searches, the ability to search in there as an agent is really almost easier than the MLS. But then we can track it all through Follow Boss, which is great. The home value alerts on there are excellent. The engagement from that is actually quite high, so we like that. And then on my front side, my website is Sierra Interactive. I use them, and I like that for various reasons. But then I use them also on a PPC campaign to bring in leads. So they're kind of two-facing on that one. And then we switch everybody right over to Real Scout, keep them in there for the nurturing and the searches. And that's pretty much my main tech stack.
Cool. And what about you, Diller?
Well, so I'm pretty basic compared to these guys. I use FUB or Follow Boss as our main central station, and then we have Ylopo for the website, PPC leads, and remarketing. And we're new to that side because when I formed our team, it was really this, let me show you how to work a referral in your sphere. And this past year, we closed 66 referrals from agent to agent and our sphere. So we just like, that was what we were pounding the ground with. And then quickly realized we're growing, we're going to exhaust these. Let's take on this other PPC and, online leads. And so, yeah, that's what we're layering on top of. And then I just talked to, see, with Chase, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, that we are going to integrate street text, and then we onboard with Fellow on Monday. I'm really slow to pull the trigger on some of this tech stack. I like to really understand it. Are we currently using what we have at the highest level? I hide in the Follow Boss community and watch what people are doing, and then I tech. So the next up for 2024 is Fellow and street text.
Yeah, lots of shiny objects out there. It can be tricky to navigate. Is this actually a useful tool, or is it just, I think I saw someone post either in the Follow Boss group or somewhere else, like, I don't want to sign up for this just because it's the new kid on the block. Like, is this actually helpful?
There's a lot of comments like that, because you see something that has all the buzz, right? And all of a sudden you're like, wait, what am I missing? And that's the shiny object just
Maybe that will
totally
get
getting in
you.
the way, right?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that.
I just started taking screenshots of all of the comments and putting them in an album in my phone labeled like Fellow or street text. And then I would go
That's
back
smart.
and I sort of analyze. Yeah, I have one. I'm going to say this bad word on here so you can blurb it out, but I have shit Barry says. And I just have a long running list of what Barry says to do. And so really street text came up the most. I had the call with Chase, and then I did the trial. And I said, well, let me get through Q1 because we're doing a few other things. I was out of town, and street text is the next. But it took me about 4 months of watching and doing that research to make sure that's what I felt like was good.
Yeah. So let's start with the common denominator between all three of you. How did you all decide Follow a Boss is the CRM I want to use? Is that the only CRM you tried, or did you all try different CRMs and then found Follow a Boss? How did that go for y'all?
Well,
I
I can
use-
start with that. I wasn't really using anything at a high level. I was at a company that gave me CRM. I didn't use it that good. And I thought, I should probably get my own to get my own kind of knowledge on how things work. And maybe I use it more if I'm paying for it type thing. This was probably 3 years ago. I must have Googled around, found Follow Boss. Its price point entry was pretty decent. And then, I played with it a little bit. But then when I actually started adding tech stack, I was like, oh my God, it's not even set up. I didn't even know. And so then I made friends with somebody here on the show, Elena, who helped me dramatically change my Follow Boss. And that's kind of how I got to it and got to using it more at a high level.
What about you, Diller? How did you decide to start using Follow Boss?
Yeah, so like I said, when I started out, I was the director of operations of two teams, revving up to building my own team, and they both used I would say a mix of 2 to 3 different CRMs over 10 years that I was in that role. And then of course, being at Keller Williams, we have Command, and I just wanted more. My slogan is I feel like you can outgrow and outlearn Command. You can also do that with several other CRMs that we were using. I just felt like we were waiting for them to catch up with us. And so a few of the agents I was coaching, they were using Follow Up Boss. And it was like every time I said, well, can your CRM do this? It was yes, yes, yes. And so I feel like we cannot outgrow or outlearn Follow Up Boss. They're always ahead of us. And that's when I decided to put all my eggs in this basket. I think I had it for about 4 or 5 months before I met you or heard about you. And then as soon as you implemented your strategies into our Follow Up Boss, things really started clicking. And then learning about all the integrations, I was like, yeah, I have no reason to look anywhere else. I've just got to master using this.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Chase? Why'd you decide?
Well, mine's a little more exhaustive. So I started on in 2012, and I told you guys my parents had been in the business for a long time, and they were using Top Producer. Not going to bash anybody, but I think we're going to name names. And that was what I knew, right? So couple 2-3 years go by, and it is what it is. It was Top Producer 8 back. I think it was 7 actually when I first joined on. Anyways. But from about 2014 to 19, so that 6-year window, we went from Top Producer to a brokerage provided one to Contactually to RealVolve to KV Core. I think we might have gone back, and every time it was very painful. I was the one instigating these moves because I was the shiny object guy, like a little squirrel chasing a freaking nut or whatever. But we would change and all the fields wouldn't map, and it was very painful. And then found Follow Up Boss in 2019, the fall of 2019, and came on, basically redid our entire back end, if you will. So we brought on Follow Up Boss, Wailopo, Sisu all at the same time. And that was kind of the first time I realized how well Follow Up Boss integrates with others. It was those two that came together, but then very quickly found that, yeah, it integrates with everything else, and it's just getting better and better. And the one thing I've told people too that I think gets a little bit missed is just how fast it is to navigate, how fast it is to load a record, load a page. I mean, these previous systems and many others out there, it might not be much, but when you're sitting there trying to rifle through, 55 calls or whatever it might be, and every single time you change the page, it takes 3.5 seconds to load, that's just time lost. So that was one of the small things I really liked right away, just how zippy it was. But again, we've not looked back, and we're not going anywhere.
So Paul, I know that you mentioned like 6 months ago you started using Sierra. Why did you decide to stick with FUB instead of go the easy route per se of just the all-in-one Sierra CRM plus the website?
It didn't even cross my mind. I honestly wouldn't have called them if they wouldn't integrate with FUB. But I did research, and they do integrate quite well. I have friends that do use their CRM that love it. So, there is a lot of respect on that. I just didn't want to learn nothing new. Just like Chase says, the pages load quick, it's convenient, it's clean. I know it already. So is there something else? Maybe. I don't need to make a change. I wasn't going to make a change. So when I made the website change, most of the website change was because I was going to Real Scout. And that Real Scout doesn't have a website, so I still needed that front facing. But yeah, I wasn't going to leave Follow Up Boss because it's what I know. It's easy.
Yeah. So there's a common denominator between you and Chase of both using Real Scout. So why did you decide to use Real Scout? Because a lot of people are wondering, well, isn't it redundant? Like I already have, like you have Sierra, you get an IDX through Sierra. Chase, you have Agent Fire, you could get the IDX through Agent Fire. Why add Real Scout?
Paul?
Well, I can tell you, if I had found Real Scout when I originally started building out a system for myself, I would have done it. I called everybody. I didn't find Real Scout, just to find someone who has the search capabilities that Real Scout has, basically the same as the MLS. If I'm searching a property, I can click on it and send it to anybody I want. Most IDX, you can't do that. There's all these, I can't select 7 houses and a map and do all these cool things, or outline a school, or have multiple agents in there. I couldn't find an IDX that's that powerful. And when I found Real Scout, I was like, oh my God, this is the thing I actually wanted. I just didn't know it was there. So to me, it was a no-brainer when I happened across it. It was necessary. And when you're with Wailopo, you're kind of used to having those 2 websites because they have your branded website and your search page. So Real Scout just became my search page.
So do you use the IDX through Sierra, like just for PPC leads, and then you transitioned them to Real Scout? Is that how it works for you?
Yeah, it's weird because of that. Like the PPC leads do come to the IDX on Sierra. They come into Follow Up Boss, and then and Real Scout picks them up instantly and creates a new search for them in Real Scout, and then we just cancel the search that started on Sierra.
Yeah.
They just transfer over. So it's the only thing we use it for is that.
Chase, did you want to chime in on how real
And
is for you?
yeah, so little different story. So our brokerage, or the brokerage that we're with, brought on Real Scout back in, I want to say 2016, 15 or 16. So I've had access to it for 9 years now. And from 16 to 19, that's all we use because it was the best. It still is the best. And, I don't know if there's going to be I don't want to be a full sales pitch or anything, but a lot of features that you can't get elsewhere, right? Like Paul mentioned, 100% MLS sync. So every single field down to buyer agent, listing agent, stories, all the stuff that you can't get on your basic IDX is there. But when we went to Follow Boss, it didn't integrate. And so that was that first tool that kind of got the axe. And ever since, it's been like, man, I can't do what I used to be able to do, right? And then we came back because about this time, I think it was 2 years ago now, they launched their initial integration. And that was the first time I was like, wait a second. They're integrating with Follow Boss now. Let me reassess. And so we pretty quickly came back and haven't looked back. It's like Paul mentioned, it's the best consumer experience out there. And the one angle that I've always had, and I've shared before, is when we bring on technology or any tool for that matter, we have to benefit, obviously, because we're paying for it and we're the agents, but there has to be a reason that we can share with the client. What benefit does the client get out of this tool, and why this one and not the other one? So it has to benefit both. And so the benefit for the client is so vast, it's hard to mention in 5 or 10 seconds, but it's better than any of the portals. It's better than any matrix MLS feed you're going to get. It's almost as fast as the MLS as it is. So there's no loss for the client from pulling them over from a Redfin or a Truly or whatever. But the benefit is just tremendous.
Yeah. So Dillar, you mentioned you've got these folders in your phone where you're actively tracking conversations about these different tools, and you currently have Ylopo and you're onboarding with Fellow. Why did you decide to add Fellow if you already have Ylopo? So Ylopo has lots of tools, including HomeBot, which I'm sure Fellow has an equivalent to that. But why did you decide to go ahead and pull the trigger and decide to move forward with Fellow?
When I was looking, I would say like Q3 of last year of, hey, what are we going to start doing for 2024? We needed a better seller aggregation, the whole was our seller marketing, seller campaigns, seller outreach, seller information. So started looking for tools in that way. Fellow was the one that just kept getting mentioned, teams that I highly respect and, watch who's doing something successful and just go model them, and Fellow just kept coming up. And so I started doing my research, did the training or whatever, and I really liked the interface. The other thing I really liked was at the time, it was easier to self-brand to the agents on my team. So that's really important on my team. They want their own name, their own brand and stuff. And that one was the easiest one to set up without paying extra onboarding and all of the fees to have that. So Fellow just really stuck out. And then I knew that Ylopo was coming out with a seller experience. It just didn't seem as robust as Fellow did. And it wasn't available according to our timeline of launching these products. So I think all of us are probably, very driven by our P&Ls and our revenue and our budgets. And it was time for me to pull the trigger. I had made a promise to my team we would have something. So Fellow was there and we were ready to do that. So that's really why we went with Fellow, and I really enjoyed the ease of using it. So I like to look at every tool and every piece of tech that we pull on, like not only how easy is it for me to manage and watch what my agents are doing, but how long is it going to take my agents to learn this new tool and implement it? Because in all honesty, I don't want my agents doing 2 weeks of training for one piece of tech. Like I want them to just be able, like, here's 30 minutes and go. So Fellow seemed very easy for us to manage from a back end, as well as for my agents to learn it and get out there and hit the ground running.
Yeah. So like Chase had mentioned earlier, he picks tools that are beneficial to the team, but also to the client. So in your mind, Diller, how was Fellow beneficial to your team?
The self-branding wasn't, so it only gets to our clients if the agents use it. So I do love what Chase says, because it is beneficial to the clients, and that's very important. But if it's not, we're not going in there and editing and setting up whatever data fields and mapping, then it really never gets to the end consumer. So Fellow so far has been one of the software that we went through the training that seemed so easy to teach, 7 to 10 agents in a week to onboard and to start using it and implementing it, as well as their help and their support. Our customer service manager is great. Her name's Jamie. So for me, from the management side, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. And Paul, I know you've been kind of keeping a close eye on Fellow, and trying to decide if it fits into your tech stack. I think I had seen you either post in the group. So what is your initial attraction to Fellow, and how would that fit into your current tech stack if you decided to add that in?
So I looked at it, had a meeting with those guys. I went all through it, because, one of those things that people talk about in the group all the time. You're like, what is this? Do I need it? You gotta know. So I was actually quite impressed with what they have. I think it's pretty cool. It's a really good tool. For me, I decided it's not for me because I have Real Scout's home value alert set up, and that has been working great for me. So I think they are maybe that plus a lot more features, but because I already have that, it's not a need for me at the moment. But I thought it was quite impressive. If I didn't have something, I would want that, for sure. I can see why people talk about it. So yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it fits. It would be double shooting with the Real Scout and that. So that's why I don't think I need it. Chase may think the same. I don't know.
On Fellow, yeah. I mean, I met Ryan, good dude. Actually had a chat with him, Ryan, myself, and Andrew from Real Scout all together, which was a pretty fun conversation. But yeah, redundancy for us, and yeah. I mean, why fix wasn't broken, and I'm really trying. The last year and a half, I've been very proud of myself by not, excuse me, being the shiny object guy. Very, very, very happy with what I currently have, and proud to say that I don't really feel like there's a tremendous hole or problem that I need to perfect or get better. So that's been a good feeling to have, because I told you before, for 7 or 8 years when I first started, it was always nothing ever felt like it was done. It was always like, well, yeah, but I gotta fix this other problem. So for me, yeah, impressive product. I know a lot of agents that are using it and using it with success, but it just didn't fit with what we're looking to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So to Paul and Chase's point of there's a little bit of overlap, going back to you, Dillar, with having HomeBot and then eventually like the new seller experience. Are you planning to, I'm sure you already have people in HomeBot. Are you planning to transition them to Fellow? Are you both at the same time? Are you planning to use the new seller tools with Ylopo? How would that, have you thought about what that would look like in the future?
So we'll probably overlap some of it. To be honest, I think that Ylopo can sometimes be a little complicated for some of the agents. They're just not that tech savvy. And especially when you're a newer agent and you're coming on, we speak an entire vocabulary that they do not understand. And it takes a good year or two for them to, learn what an IDX feed and your back end website and all of this stuff. So for me, if I have an agent who is very tech savvy that joins the team and can handle all of that, that doesn't get in the way of their time on task to do what the agents need to do. Sure, they can use whatever, they just have options. I think the majority of our agents are probably only going to use Fellow because it's very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have options, that's great. It's not changing our bottom line that much right now, so I'll leave both. I just feel like from the newer agent standpoint, they are all going to go for Fellow because it's a very easy data entry, and the campaigns that come with it are very easy, and the landing pages and the cash offer options, it's very clean.
Yeah, there's lots of options for different CTAs for sellers. I think there's a couple for buyers, but definitely mainly seller focused. So back to Paul and Chase, because you both chose Real Scout. I'm curious because you both went different routes. Why, Chase, did you decide Agent Fire for your website?
So I mean, to back up a little bit, what I really tried to do, about a year and a half ago, a little longer than that now, was really break apart what we were using in the past and try to perfect each of those avenues. And so the core of a Ylopo or even the Sierra package or a KV Core package, most of those tools, you can break apart the systems into three pieces. It's going to be your website, your IDX, and your lead generation. So what I really wanted to do was do a ton of research on each of those avenues and what is the best website, what is the best IDX, right? And what is the best lead generation tool for me? And so I interviewed a bunch. Agent Fire to me was the best blend of design, of course, cost, because that's always an important line item. I know Dillar mentioned that with our P&Ls, right? But then also, what I was very impressed by were all the unique aspects that they have that and again, maybe some others have it. I've not seen them with some of their area guides, the calls to actions you can customize, which I think is tremendously powerful. The evergreen listing pages, how everything syncs together, and then of course the sync to FUB. So those things all together were how I kind of found a home base there, and it's just gotten better ever since. They just released a tool 3 or 4 days ago that you can have their built-in pre-prompted AI generate short form, medium form, long form, just listed, pending, or just sold emails for your whole database. So it took me 2.5 minutes to generate an entire email campaign around a new listing that I sent to 8,000 people in under 3 minutes. That was pretty impressive. So, I mean, stuff like that. It's always those additional power-ups that I found to be quite nice. But again, mix of features, price, and design.
Yeah. Paul, why did you decide to go the route of Sierra?
Most, I guess, similar to Chase and probably most people, they meet with every designer and company out there and go through all the features and find where and what matters. I had a website that I didn't like and never knew how to use or work, and that was painful for me. I'm not the most creative. I don't need all the features, but I need to know how to adjust things if I need to. And if it's just too complicated, it annoys me. I just want to, ease of use would be great. It did come down to a few front runners, and Agent Fire was right there. They have a lot of great features. They look great. They have good costs. I mean, they're an excellent, I would just agree with Chase. They're an excellent option. I went with Sierra. I have a handful of buddies that use it. Their sites are clean. They're easy. They look good. I don't need it to do much more than that. And I know the back end's easy. I know Google likes their sites very well when it comes to SEO, so that can be grown if you care to. You obviously got to do work, but I do plan on and am building out the blog for those reasons, from the YouTube channel to the blog and back and forth, and trying to build more organic reach, which we've had some organic leads, which is nice. Don't really get those before. So those are some of the reasons I chose to go with Sierra, but it was neck and neck with probably 3 different companies.
Yeah. Yeah. And also too, just people's different goals and also what they like and their personality. Like Chase loves technology and loves to be in the technology and loves to tinker and has that ability very easily and readily available for him in his Agent Fire website. And Paul, like you said, you don't necessarily have the time or desire to do that type of thing. So Sierra was the better option for you. But segueing into your advertising and lead generation, Dillar, you do some, do you do any lead generation through Ylopo, or right now is it just mainly retargeting through Ylopo?
We do one of the entry level PPC programs, and we spend more on the remarketing side. Part of that was when I started hiring the agents on my team, I was looking for what was already in their database, because I believe your database is your salary. That's your base salary. So when I'm looking for people to come into the team with higher level base salaries, and then we just throw them in there and I can remarket them, it's just a different way of leading with revenue through my team. And so when I looked at Ylopo and a few other programs, I guess about 2 years ago, that was really what I needed, just like simple remarketing, and then we'll sprinkle in some online leads. And the market was, amazing at that time. I didn't really need a lot of extra online leads, and just more people to call. My agents were pretty much at max at that time, and I wasn't looking at bringing on new agents. And then here we are, the market shifted, times of change. So that's one of the reasons for adding Fellow and Street Text now, is to just shift so we can grow our business or grow our database.
Mm-hmm. So why are you deciding to look into Street Text? What sparked your curiosity to use it?
Well, once again, with my little screenshots of all the cool things going on, and then when I lay there late at night and read what is most talked about, Street Text just kept coming up, and that's when I also talked to Chase, and then shortly after I talked to Street Text. And once again, going back to that, I'm not a super big tech person. It was easy. It's easy for me to get in and out of there. It's easy for me to monitor what's going on and not change my position as, team owner, rainmaker, to now all of a sudden I'm a tech website developer or whatever. I just really liked how easy it was and how much control I had, or I will have.
Mm-hmm. So are you planning to do your ads yourself? Because I think they also have a done for you option.
I'll probably do a few myself, like I'm going to learn it best if I'm in it and doing it myself and my director of ops. And then we have like a seller agent pod we're creating, so only certain agents in this pod are allowed to work with sellers, and they will learn it too, so that they can help market their own listings and just understand what they will be telling the new person, the customer service rep, sorry, what we want and what we expect.
Mm-hmm. And so then Paul, I think you took a little bit of a different approach where you hired, I guess you would categorize them as an agency. You're using Dippity, is that right, for managing your ads? So how did you decide to work with them?
Well, I went with Dippity for a while. I don't use them anymore.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
But I do like them. I think that they did everything they said they would do. They performed well. As I left Ylopo, I still wanted PPC leads and marketing, and so I looked around for somebody who wasn't connected to a site and could do it kind of third party. And I found them, and they were excellent, and they did a really good job. But that brings me back to one of the reasons why I did end up with Sierra, because I have friends that use their PPC. I know their pricing for management on it is relatively low definitely low compared to where I left, but relatively low across the board for most people. So if and when I decided to use them, they were plug and play. So that was another reason. But yeah, both those companies do it well.
Good. And Chase, why did you decide to use Street Text and currently use Street Text rather than a done for you service or an ad agency?
Yeah, so we barely started dabbling with PPC stuff. That's been a rock I've kept kicking down the curb. So we are actually in the process right now of using Dippity for just the PPC side of things. But that's a very small piece. So again, most of it's Street Text. So I have a very different approach here because we don't convert at a high level on online leads. No secret there. But my philosophy is different. The philosophy there is, A, it's a database filler, right? Where we're going to remarket the heck out of them. But B, a lot of it is, and I don't know if I should say this publicly or not, but a lot of it is seller appeasement and how we can secure listings by advertising better than anyone else can. And the ads are, in a big sense, a way to promise to our clients that we're going to be able to generate 24,000 views in 4.5 days before the open house. And we're going to have 37 inquiries or 64 inquiries that we're all going to reach out to. And they do come to the open houses and they do show up for the weekend. So the conversion is not as high as I know Paul mentioned earlier, 2 or 3%. That's phenomenal. And again, that's something that I'm working on this year actively, and we are getting better at that. But again, the philosophy was a bit different. So Facebook specifically is the lowest cost per lead. It's the highest funnel as well, which is why we've paired that up with Real Scout for the best engagement that we can get. Specifically on the Street Text, the reason why I really fell in love with that service is, I am hands-on. I like to be hands-on. They do have a managed service like Elena mentioned, but just from a couple of the ways that they integrate with FUB. But secondly, the two biggest things that they do that I've not seen anywhere else is First one's called a 3-ad split test. So rather than, because targeting on Facebook is almost impossible. It's 15-mile radius, and that's all you get. So the way it was explained to me, and I wholeheartedly believe this, is when you set up an ad on Facebook, you get this box is your audience, right? And sometimes it's decent, and sometimes it's completely irrelevant. The wrong area, not the right clientele. What Street Text empowers us to do then is create 3 ads simultaneous, 2 or 3 or 4, but 3 is the magic number. Simultaneous ads identically at the exact same time. So now we're able to get this audience, and this audience within, they say 24 to 48 hours. I'm finding an answer pretty quickly as to which ad grabbed the right audience within 6, 7, 8 hours. But then I'm able to funnel the budget to the ad that got the correct audience and then let that one run. So that's been phenomenal because our cost per lead, I mean, I just texted one of the Street Text guys a few days ago because we just launched, 23 new ads for a listing of ours, 5 different ads times 3 or whatever the math is. And we have 3 ads currently running for the open house this weekend and just listed ads. We're in Orange County, which pretty high cost per lead. We're at about $1.78 per lead across 3 different ads, which is just nuts for what I've seen. That's the first thing. The second piece on the remarketing side, not only can we remarket based on stages and tags inside FUB versus just here's everybody, put all of our ads in front of them. We can segment down, buyers versus sellers, AB versus CD. You can really segment down if you want to, but the unique aspect are their bundles. So rather than running 10 remarketing ads at $1 a day and it's $10 a day, you can put those 10 ads into a bundle, and those bundles can rotate automatically daily, weekly, or monthly. So now you've got 10 ads in a bundle. You're spending $1 a day, but you're getting 10 different ads seen over and over and over. So I love that because I'm a big believer in ad fatigue, in that, in the analogy I've given before, I'm on record saying this too, is like the Progressive insurance commercials. So, you're watching a football game, the first commercial break is flow, the second commercial break is becoming your parents, the third commercial break is when they had the Baker Mayfield commercials or whatever. It's the same product, it's the same message, but it's a different way to get it out there. So that's kind of how we're using the remarketing bundles. But, I've got so many of them running, but I'm spending so little because they cycle automatically. So those 2 things really were what sold me initially. And again, haven't looked back.
Yeah. So you mentioned that PPC is a very small part of your advertising. Why did you decide, since traditionally, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul and Dillar and Chase, but traditionally PPC leads are known to have a higher conversion rate, even though they are a bit expensive. So why did you decide to focus more heavily on Facebook rather than PPC?
For me?
Yep.
So again, we're a very small team. I mean, it's my parents and I, we have 3 agents that work with us, and we operate a pretty good mix of old school, new school. I mean, our sources of business, it's like 42% farm, 35% sphere and referrals, and the remaining 20 or 30% is a mixture of open houses, sign calls, stuff, and then online is like this big. So for us, it's all a marketing play, and really just making sure that wherever the consumer is, we're going to be there and be there better than the others that are in our area. That's the biggest reason why. I mean, in my research for PPC stuff, and again, different teams have different structures, and I know agents that crush it, but what I keep hearing is the conversion rate isn't traditionally that much higher than social, but it's tremendously higher in cost. So that's why I've been hesitant for so long.
Yeah. So Paul, when you go on, do you do listing appointments, or are you in production? No, or how do you still do it? You still do production. When you go on appointments, either listing appointments or buyer consultations, do you utilize these tools in some way to showcase, like, this is the benefit to you that I use, advertising, or this is the benefit to you because of this Real Scout tool? Do you use any of that in your presentations?
I don't use any of it in my presentations.
No.
I use me. I'm the main tool.
Yeah.
I used to not even bring anything to the meeting. Then I lost the listing because I didn't bring anything. So I was like, oh, maybe I should go back to that. I mean, I used to back in the day, always had the packages and stuff. I just gave up and it still worked. So I was like, okay. But yeah, my thought, if I ever get back to having a listing presentation, I would have pages for the tech stack and what they do for that client. I would think that they may care. At the end of the day, most of them want to sell their house and know that you have sold and can sell. So if they know, like, and trust me, I'll probably get the business.
Yeah.
It won't matter that we have Real Scout. I see Real Scout as a tool that's actually more beneficial to the agents than it is to the consumer, because on the back end it's so great to use. So I see it kind of the opposite of Chase. I know he sees it as a great tool for the consumer. I think it's heavily weighted as a great tool for the agent on the backside.
Mhm. What about you, Dillar? Are you in production right now? And do you go on appointments and mention these things?
Yeah, I'm in production. We have it mentioned, and then we even have like a tech stack page. However, I think it really depends on the consumer. And if I'm going and I can tell by the voice and the conversation on the phone that me saying anything about technology is just going to blow their mind. You know, I'm considering, am I even faxing the listing agreement? Like, how are we going to do this? You know, my
Press hard
hand
for the
delivering
copies.
it. Right. Yeah. So I really try to gauge my audience of who am I going on this appointment with. Being that we're in Austin, a pretty tech savvy world, if I meet more of the young kind of hustler, go-getter investor guys, especially some of the guys that dabble in bigger pockets, they're impressed if you just start name dropping and it more or less builds rapport. Then how does this actually impact the way this transaction is going to go? And I leave that up to my agents as well. I don't want them to get stuck in a presentation trying to explain how our IDX is going to get 47% viewership or whatever. Just go in and be you, but be confident that you have these tools behind you that the seller needs. So yeah, it's a gray area for us. I would say where it shows up most is in our recruiting packet, just our why work with us. We have a tech stack page where we talk to them about why we use Follow Up Boss, why Lopo does, how it makes their life a little bit easier. We have a remarketing budget, or they can pay into certain buckets. They can run their own ads on their own listings and have control. So I would say, if anything, it's more recruiting to the team now. And I'm looking to grow a team. So right now we've got 6 to 7 agents at all times, and we're looking to onboard 2 a month. So it helps, I would say, on that side.
I agree with that. It's more flashy to the agents than it is to the clients for me.
Yeah, good point. What about you, Chase? Do you use it on either side? I'm not sure you're recruiting for your team.
No, so actually and not to discredit anything they're saying, because they're all spot on, but I've got the complete opposite approach, which is nice. Yeah, not growing. I'm very comfortable with the size of the team and how we operate. I am in production. 90% listings, the buyers get sent to the team for, again, the most part. But again, everything for us is a client benefit. So listing presentation, you get different markets, I'm sure, but I was brought up pretty old school here. So, yes, we have a presentation, it's constantly in flux, it's constantly being tweaked and changed and added to and perfected. But, when we're at the table, yes, I mean, we're certainly going to gear the discussion around their concerns and the questions that we ask at the beginning to kind of push that conversation where it needs to go. But aside from preparation, credibility, negotiating, all the basics that we do very well, we are firm believers in exposure creates demand, demand pushes the price higher. Not every agent's going to get the same price that we will. I think most top producing agents might agree with that. I don't know. But if we can get the more eyeballs than our competition does, it's going to be very hard for a seller to agree that they're not going to get a higher price. So everything that we do is about how we're going to market the house to better with collateral, photos, virtual tour, video, all that stuff. And that's all flashy and fun and sexy. But then where does it go when we have it? Having good pictures is great. Who's going to see them, right? So how big is your syndication network? How big, how many views is your website getting organically? How big is your Facebook audience? How many views are you getting on your paid ad versus your organic ads? These things are all things that we leverage at the table to prove to the seller that we are able to get more ready and able buyers to view their property than the competition does. And with Real Scout specifically, I mean, at the listing table, that's a reverse prospecting play with the agents. That is a test the market pricing, so we can look at advanced pricing metrics within Real Scout to show a subset of the market and how many buyers are currently looking at properties in specific price ranges. So if they're on the fence between, you know, 950 and 990, well, I can show them specifically how many more buyers may be visible at 949 versus 969 or whatever that is. So those are some of the benefits that we push through, but it's all marketing exposure. I mean, when we're marketing a house, we're marketing agencies. That's what they hire us for. And then we switch quickly to negotiating and protection. But yeah, a little different philosophy, but I think there's merit in all of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul,
And I think part of that, like, I definitely agree with all that, is for someone like me in a position of growing a team and you're typically hiring newer agents, the gap between Chase and I being able to sit here and talk about all of the benefits to a client is really hard to relay to an agent who's just licensed, and they, you know, this conversation is like a foreign language to them. And so I'm curious to know what I would say in 2 years from now, where I have more agents that have been in the business 3 or 4 years using these tools, who understand, you know, what it's like to have more than just your aunt or whatever calling you to list their home. Like, because when you start taking cold sellers, you really need to be able to compete. I think when you're getting a referral, you can go more of the route that Paul and I go now, is like, sure, we're going to list someone, they love us, whatever, versus just a straight up cold lead that clicked on a Google ad. You may need to be prepared differently for that appointment. However, that's still a foreign concept to a new agent.
Yeah, Dillar, the majority of clients that you take on, are they warm handoffs like referrals or past clients or Sphere at this point?
For me personally, I think I was something like almost 80% of my transactions in 2023 were referrals. And the majority of those are agent to agent referrals. And then, even crazy enough, I closed 10 transactions from agents in my own office that referred them to me. So, you know, I have a little, like, when I'm talking about it, I do get more warm handoffs. However, I don't have to go in and explain, this is my tech stack, to a seller. I have the confidence of, just trust me with my tools. I have this system and process behind me that's going to get your home sold. I'm coming to you with data because of the systems and processes that I use. You know, telling them what YLOPO is I'm just more worried about building rapport with any lead that I'm in front of.
Yeah. And Paul, for you, when you go on appointments, is it competitive? Like, what is your marketplace like? Are the people you're meeting with other agents, or is it like a lot of warm handoffs as well, like for Dillar?
They're generally the people that I meet with generally are meeting with others. You know, and I try to sift that out in the meeting so that I know where I stand. Am I the first, the last, the middle? It also helps me know when to follow up, which then I go into follow up and set myself a reminder to follow up exactly when I wanted to. But yeah, there's generally a lot of competition here. So, but I agree with Chase. If you can explain the information, not so much the tech stack or product name, but hey, we can go in here and we can reverse prospect. We can, what I do is I go after agents. You know, I use that as part of my pitch when I'm listing. Part of my marketing is to agents, because 95% of the time another agent shows up with the buyer. So we'll market agents. How do we do that? Well, in Real Scout, we can go to reverse marketing, right? And then of course you can go and you could talk about those tools. It depends on the conversation, but you know, there's power in bringing these things up or showing, you know, if you move the price down here, there's this many more buyers in your city for your property.
And the one thing too, yeah, I mean, and we're not going there to just bury them with tech terms. I mean, I've been honing how that conversation goes for 12 years, try to make it make it in as layman's terms as they possibly can, because they're not going to have a clue what remarketing is. They're not going to have a clue what ad fatigue is or any of that stuff. So you have to present it in a way that, again, it's more so framing the conversation in a way that they can understand. So when it talks about remarketing, hey, Mr. Buyer and Seller, we're going after new audiences that are looking for properties, but we also have a database of 8,000 people that are currently looking at all of our emails and ads. But what we're going to do is put your home in front of them over and over and over. How do we do that? Well, have you ever gone to Nordstrom and looked at a pair of shoes? Yes, of course I have. Great. Are you on Facebook? Oh no, my sister is. Okay, well, I'm sure she's told you this before. Wow, how all of a sudden those shoes are on Facebook. Oh yeah, isn't that crazy? I said, yeah. Well, here's the crazy part is our competition's not doing this, and we are in the real estate space, not many do. And here's the results of why that's important to you. And you give it to them in terms they understand, to where then by the end of it, they aren't going to go with the other agent because they aren't doing what you're going to do. So it's really about framing it in a way that, again, you have to follow through with it. So you can't make all these empty promises and then just don't do any of it. So we have a lot of follow-up around the metrics and the ads and the tasks that we perform to make sure that they know that we fulfilled our promises. But it is important. It is important, in my opinion.
I think it's something that when I look in the forum sometimes and I see agents asking questions of, hey, what tech piece do I need for this or that? And I often find when I start asking agents questions, they don't understand why they're getting it. And so I always like to live by the rule of the tech that I have now, is it helping me perform what I need to perform today? Is it helping me close the deals and do what I need to do today? The tech that I want, is it going to get me where I need to go? So I'm very specific this year. I've fired my other coaches. I have one coach right now who is very specific with farming and database growth. And we have all of those metrics on a GPS for what we want to do quarterly. So the only software or tech that I'm going to add is where I want to be by the end of 2024. And if, a lot of people shoot me a message and ask me these questions, and I'm like, well, what do you want it for? What improvements are you trying to make in your business? Why are you implementing this? What does your revenue say that you can implement? And they don't have those questions yet. So I think we've talked a lot on this call about how does it actually help our clients or our day-to-day business? But when we're adding stuff, we need to look at, is that what you need to add?
That's a really good point, and one that I'll bring it up now because we just talked about 7 or 8 different pieces of technology. I mean, if you're watching this and you're confused and overwhelmed, stop. First of all, really, like she just said, really dive into what hole you're trying to fix, what problem you're trying to fix, and then go after that specific piece of technology. Don't go and blow everything up and bring on Sierra. Well, then Sierra doesn't do this, so bring an Agent Fire, then add Real Scout, then get more local for that. Like, which of these pieces is really going to impact your business and get you from, like we just said, from where you are today to where you want to be, and then focus on that specific hole first.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one of the big reasons I didn't add a lot of PPC, I had a lot of PPC, and then I realized I didn't have the systems to support it. So I could go in and say, hey, this company sucks and da-da-da-da-da. But then I was like, wait, I don't have the systems, processes, smart lists, smart plans, and enough people on the phones to hammer the amount of leads I had. So of course I had a problem. So I cut it all off, hired and trained more people. And then now that problem is I don't have enough. So that's where Street Techs can finally enter my business, or Fellow can finally enter, because we've got everything else cleaned up. So, I'd like to just make sure we're expressing that. You can't just come on and jump because I think Paul's a cool dude. I'm going to go switch and do what Paul's doing. If it doesn't make any sense in my future business, I just now have cool stuff. I don't have his haircut yet, but that's cool too. You've got to plan this stuff.
I agree with all that. As you add things, fully vet it. Is it the thing that's going to do what you want it to do? There's all sorts of options out there, and you make your choices based on what your needs are, and if it's going to actually work for that need, for you, for your team, for whatever it is you're looking at. Just dissect it. Take a minute, look through the group, see the feedback, ask questions, and go get it when it makes sense.
And also change is painful. No one wants to change, bring on something that we all talked about, and then you fizzle out because either A, it didn't fit your business style or whatever, you're out money, but you're also out a lot of headache because now you got to figure out a way to change again. And that's, again, I've done that too many times myself. So if I can help you not do that, that's good.
And on the topic of asking questions, I'm assuming the answer is yes, but if people want to reach out to one of y'all to ask about more about your tech stack and why you made the decisions you did, is that all right? People either comment or reach out to you on social media?
Yep,
Yeah, sure.
anytime.
Sweet. Well, thank you. We're right on the dot of like an hour of meetings, so I don't want to keep y'all any longer, but thank you for having the discussion. And I know lots of people in the community will find this helpful. So thank you all for your time. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.